Welcome to the Pilgrim's Rest channel. Our mission here is pretty straightforward, introducing those timeless spiritual books, the ones handed down through the ages. We want to bring them to saints like you.
To help you find that rest.
Exactly. Rest, provision, renewed strength for your pilgrimage, your faith journey.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're diving into, a really foundational one, Augustine's Confessions. It's incredibly personal, almost raw.
Yeah, and it's key to remember, this isn't just history, not just some old document about the early church.
Right.
For you, the spiritual seeker today, this book, it's like a map for the soul, really. We're looking at it not just intellectually, but for those practical, sometimes uncomfortable lessons.
Humility, growth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Spiritual growth, honesty, humility. What can it actually provide the pilgrim today? That's the question we're asking.
Okay, so Augustine. We hear the name, we think, the bishop, the big doctor of the church, shaped centuries of theology.
Right, the towering figure.
But when he actually sat down to write Confessions, who was he then? Not the finished product, but the man, the struggling seeker. We're looking at the original, the Latin, and its incredible legacy, but let's ground it in the person first.
Yeah, that's crucial. So Augustine of Hippo lived 354 to 430 AD, but before the bishop phase, he was, frankly, a bit of a mess.
Yeah. Oh.
A restless, incredibly brilliant young man, though.
Yeah.
Trained in rhetoric, he was really aiming for worldly success, career, pleasure.
Yeah.
That was the focus.
A turbulent time for him.
Definitely. His early life was marked by, a long-term relationship outside marriage and this intense intellectual searching that actually pulled him away from the Christian faith initially.
And he wasn't just dabbling either, right? He got seriously involved in other philosophies.
Oh, absolutely. His journey was slow, often, pretty agonizing. For almost 10 years, he was deeply into Manichaeism.
Manichaeism. What was the appeal there for him?
Well, it's a dualistic religion. It basically splits the world into good or light and evil darkness.
Two opposing forces.
And intellectually, it seemed to offer an easy answer to the problem of evil. It's not my fault. It's that external darkness acting on me.
Sounds convenient. Avoids personal responsibility a bit.
It really did. And that's why leaving it for Christianity was such a battle of the will. He had to let go of years of intellectual pride and self-justification.
And his mother, Monica, played a huge role, didn't she?
We can't talk about Augustine without Monica. Her prayers, constant, faithful, tear-filled prayers, they were the driving force behind him. You feel that pressure, that love throughout the Confessions.
So the book itself comes right after his conversion.
Pretty much. Written around 400 AD, he was in his mid-40s. It really sounds like a soul that's just been captured, looking back at the whole long siege that led to his surrender.
Wow. Okay, that context is so important. It's written right out of that intense spiritual and intellectual struggle. So let's talk about why this book is still so important. 16 centuries later, it still grips people. How does it actually serve the spiritual seeker today? Why was it so revolutionary back then?
Well, it was revolutionary in what it did with writing.
Yeah.
Before Confessions, big works were about external things.
Yeah.
Heroes, history, abstract ideas.
Right, looking outward.
Exactly. Augustine turns the focus completely inward. It's basically the first true spiritual autobiography in literature. It kickstarts that whole genre of introspection, looking deep inside at the psychology of faith, temptation, grace, that whole inner experience.
And the title, Confessions, that word itself has layers of meaning, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That's part of its genius. For Augustine, confession means two things happening at the same time. And this really structures the book.
Okay, what are the two?
First, it's confession of sin, repentance, laying it all out there, painfully honest self-revelation about his mistakes, his disordered desires.
Brutal honesty.
Totally. But at the same time, it's a confession of praise, it's doxology, it's declaring faith in God's goodness, God's sovereignty, even amidst the mess.
So it holds those two together, absolute honesty about himself and absolute praise for God.
Precisely. And that combination reveals the core theme for us pilgrims, doesn't it? That the real path to God needs that radical honesty, that self-examination.
It tackles sin head-on, but also celebrates grace. It feels like the ultimate lesson in humility.
It really is. Augustine sort of gives us permission to be that transparent. He shows that deep theological insight often comes after you admit your most embarrassing failures.
It's a powerful thought.
Yeah, you reframe struggle, your story, your messy bits. They aren't a distraction from theology. They're the actual field where you experience it.
Okay, that's huge for anyone feeling maybe a bit stuck or discouraged on their journey. Let's really unpack this then. For today's saints, people walking that road, maybe dealing with burnout, distraction, what are the specific takeaways, the provisions this ancient book offers for rest and strength?
Well, you have to start with the restless heart. It's probably the most famous line right at the beginning.
Our heart is restless until it rests in you.
You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. That's it. It's the fundamental statement about how we're designed, our spiritual longing.
That's really the core theme for this channel, Pilgrim's Rest, that yearning.
It's the deep source of, well, almost all human behavior, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every search outside of God for career success, validation online, chasing pleasure, it's all trying to fill this God-shaped hole.
Mm-hmm.
And it forces humility because you have to admit, okay, I'm built for dependence, not self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
In our culture today, which is all about self-help and efficiency.
Right, pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Exactly. That reminder that ultimate satisfaction is only in resting in God. It's profoundly countercultural and vital for real spiritual rest.
Okay, so that's the goal, the rest. But then there's this other story he tells that shows just how deep the problem goes. The pear tree incident.
Yeah, yes.
What?
Book 2.
The pears.
It sounds almost trivial, like kids messing around, but he treats it so seriously. He does. And it's because it was a key moment for him in understanding evil. He and some friends stole pears from a neighbor's orchard late at night.
Okay.
But here's the thing. He immediately says they had better pears at home. They weren't hungry, they weren't poor, they didn't need them.
So why do it?
Purely for the thrill of breaking the rule, for the malice, for the feeling of doing wrong together as a group. Sin for sin's sake.
Wow, just choosing disorder.
Exactly. And the spiritual insight here is huge. Augustine uses it to show how deep the disordered will goes. We prefer rebellion sometimes, even when our needs are met.
We like to make excuses, don't we? I was stressed, they made me mad.
Right. But the pear incident forces humility
Yeah.
because it says, look, even when things are fine, our motives can be dark. We choose against the good sometimes just because we can. That realization, it pushes you straight back to needing grace. The problem isn't just external, it's internal corruption.
That really makes you stop and think about your own motivations, doesn't it? Okay, so there's the restless heart-seeking rest, the deep reality of sin. What's another big struggle, he reveals?
The struggle with delay. I think this one hits home for almost everyone. That resistance to fully committing right now.
Procrastination.
Spiritual procrastination.
Yeah.
Augustine famously wrestled with giving up his career, his lifestyle, especially the commitment to celibacy. And his struggle is perfectly captured in that prayer he admits to making.
Oh, the not yet prayer.
That's the one. Grant me chastity and continence, but not yet.
Huh. It's almost funny, but also painfully relatable.
Totally relatable. It just nails that tension, doesn't it? Knowing what's right, knowing where rest truly is, but being unwilling to surrender control now.
Yeah, that fear of the final step.
It speaks directly to anyone struggling with immediate obedience, especially if it means giving up something comfortable or familiar. It shows that grace often has to break through layers of our self-will and old habits.
The pilgrim path demands present tense obedience, not maybe later.
Exactly. Not delayed surrender.
Okay, this is all incredibly insightful about the will, temptation. But then Augustine goes even deeper, right? Into memory and time, especially in books 10 and 11. This feels like where things get really profound philosophically, too.
Oh, definitely. This is kind of the sum of the confessions. He turns inward again, but not just to list sins. He's contemplating the sheer vastness of his own mind, his memory.
He saw memory differently, didn't he? Not just storage.
Not at all like just a filing cabinet. He describes it as this huge sacred space, a palace within the soul. And he realized the search for God wasn't just out there in scripture or nature. God's presence could be perceived within the mind itself.
How does looking at memory become looking for God?
Because the incredible capacity of memory, its complexity, it showed him the greatness of the God who made it. He realized that the things he was searching for, truth, goodness, beauty, the knowledge of them was already sort of in there, placed by God, even if he couldn't fully grasp it yet.
So he's sifting through his own past, his knowledge, trying to find God's fingerprint.
Yes, searching for God in his own memory. He famously says God was more inward than my innermost self.
Wow, that encourages such deep reflection for us today. Our memories or past experiences, they become places to potentially encounter God.
Right. It transforms memory. It's not just for regret or nostalgia. It's active spiritual ground, a place for the pilgrimage within.
So the spiritual life isn't just about external actions.
It's also about recognizing the divine imprint already inside us. And then in Book 11, when he wrestles with what is time, That whole struggle just proves to him how limited our minds are compared to eternity. It highlights the majesty of the eternal creator.
Okay, so pulling these threads together, the restless heart, the reality of sin, the fight against delay, this inner search and memory. What's the bottom line for someone walking their faith journey now? How does this deep dive actually provide energy supply for the pilgrim?
I think Confessions teaches that spiritual maturity isn't about getting more complex. It's about constantly returning to the basics Augustine laid bare, which acknowledging our deep dependence and, yes, corruption, that's the confession of sin, and immediately turning that into focus on God's majesty and grace, the confession of praise.
The two confessions again.
Always the two. And Augustine's sheer transparency is the invitation. It provides rest. Because if this brilliant scholar, this powerful bishop, could be that honest about his theft, his delays, his pride, then we can too.
Yeah.
We can approach God with absolutely no varnish, total honesty.
And when he already knows.
Knowing he's already been searching for us, even within our own messy memories. That radical honesty, that's where the rest starts on this tough pilgrimage.
It really is. Okay, so as people think about this, mull over the need for that kind of honesty. You have a final thought for us.
Now, building on that idea of memory and time, Augustine famously asks, what is time? Trying to grasp eternity.
Yeah.
But maybe we could ask ourselves this. How would our spiritual journey change, really change, if we stopped seeing time every minute, every memory, every past moment as just, fleeting personal history, and instead saw each one as a specific, intentional gift from the eternal God, a gift designed precisely to draw us closer to him, closer to rest?
That's a powerful thought to reflect on, seeing time itself as a provision. Wonderful. Thank you for unpacking this incredible book with us.
My pleasure. It's always worth revisiting Augustine.
Thank you for listening to the Pilgrim's Rest channel. Hope to see you next time.